Retro anime. How did we find it? How does it hold up? Unpacking the ins and outs of being an old school nerd and proving that 80s kids can't remember a damn thing right. These are the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd.
Welcome to Mindless Midlife Musings of the Anime Nerd. I'm Rick, and I'm joined by the rest of our panel, Vic, Brian, Lynette, and Andrea. How's it going, everyone?
Hi.
Hello,
hey, everybody.
All right, our celebration of all things Ghibli continues as we make our way to the Forest of the Deer God. Today, we discuss Princess Mononoke. The film was released in Japan in July of 1997 by Toho, and in the United States by Miramax in October of 1999. One of those films that fits our criteria as well as celebrates Ghibli, like the last Ghibli film of the millennia.
Right.
This met with home releases in every bloody format you can imagine, in every bloody market you can imagine, everywhere. This is one of those films that if you can't find it, you're just not even trying. It's available everywhere.
I'm sorry, sir. You don't need to talk about people to their face.
Well, he's not. He's talking to them through the computer.
I mean, you can go to Wally World and pick this thing up. Like it's
Look,
everywhere.
I feel like we're supposed to have a certain amount of guilt if this is the first time, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh no judgment, no judgment. I go into every film assuming Lynette hasn't even seen it, so except this one, I know she's seen this one. So the film follows Prince Ashitaka as he investigates the death of a boar kami that attacked his village, and he finds a land at odds as the industrial Iron Town encroaches on the forest territory of a powerful deer kami. And that's the shortest, broadest description I could come up with.
Yeah, that's the short version.
The short version. This movie, yeah, it came out in 1999 theatrically. I was one of the few people that got to see it in a movie theater.
Back then.
Yeah, back then. So it premiered on 38 screens in the whole of the U.S. And it just so happened that I was staying with my future wife, Deb, up in St. Cloud, Minnesota at the time, and it was airing at the theater there, the Crossroads 6. So, so I made her go watch this. God love her, she was not an anime fan at the time, so this came on kind of strong. This is a lot of...
To say the least.
There's a lot of strong anime themes in it, and I don't know that she was fully prepared because her initial reactions were not pleasant. But yeah, and I do want to talk about it. There's 38 screens for its opening. That's not the entirety of its run, but when it premiered for the first few weeks, it was just 38 screens. And this relatively tiny showing of theaters in the U.S. still led to a box office of over $2 million. So for its first 8 weeks. So by the time it finished its run, it had been in like 350 theaters in the U.S. But for the first 8 weeks, it was a real small run. Apparently intentionally. I think Miramax probably didn't have as much faith in it as they should have. I think it's probably has to do with the fact that they weren't allowed to make cuts, so they didn't think American audiences would take to it. This is the film the infamous katana with no cuts on it was used for. This is the one. So this has a lot of personal meaning to me. It's 1999. We're talking the internet was nothing but GeoCities websites. Ask Jeeves. And we were barely scraping the surface of broadband at the time. And find out
and by broadband, you mean like 3 megabits down.
Right, yeah, and to find out that this anime was coming out at all, I was impressive enough as it is. But then to find out that it was in this tiny little college town in the middle of Minnesota.
Is it just, or are you painting the picture of a digital, hear me out, of a digital Oregon Trail where people died of
They died of no bandwidth.
Right. It was a lawless time. You
Think
know,
about it. Think
in the
about it.
high age of Conan, where wizards and magic ruled the internet.
Hey,
That
am I
was the
wrong?
internet then.
Am I wrong?
Mhm.
Like anybody of age, am I wrong? I mean, that's how the internet was. You had AOL chats. That was like the most advanced internet anybody had ever used.
I still refused it back then. So
You had to scour the scrolls. If you wanted directions, you had to print it up in MapQuest, and hopefully, you had a Sage navigator who can be point A to point.
100%.
you're not wrong.
100%.
And if someone called in on your phone line, you were done.
That's it's important to establish that because this movie did well. I mean, everybody says on metrics it did poorly, but really logistically, if you think about it, it did very well considering the environment in which it was released.
Mhm.
Pretty damn impressive.
Yep. Yep. You're still crucified if you were an anime fan back then. So
yeah.
What we did equivalent of taking the Bible and throwing it to the natives and hoping they would be able to discern the 10 Commandments.
All right. Yes, basically. This was Disney or Miramax. I'm air quoting their first attempt at a Ghibli film, and they kind of brought their A game on this one. The American script was done by frickin' Neil Gaiman of all people, just comic book royalty.
Come on. By who?
Neil Gaiman.
Oh, Gaiman. Not
Gaiman. I think it's Gaiman. Is it Gaiman?
I thought you were saying Neil Diamond is in Sweet Caroline.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, Sweet Caroline. Oh, a comic book writer and film writer, TV show writer. I mean, he's a household name to a lot of people, but back then, comic book nerds abound. It's funny. He wrote the American screenplay for this, and yet he wasn't credited anywhere. He wasn't on the movie poster. He wasn't in any of the marketing. It was just one of those things you kind of found out after the fact, because Miramax didn't want to drop their names from the posters. Producers, they didn't want to not take credit, so they decided his name was expendable. They had to remove some character from the poster. They're like, I'll just take Neil Gaiman off of there. No big deal.
He just didn't fit.
So you bring it on himself. Like the letter is by far the most unattractive letter ever known to me. So he said that he's going to be named Neil Gaiman. You expect you're going to be kicked off the Miramax posters.
That's just how they played it, man. I mean, Weinstein wasn't going to not have his name on the poster.
Right, and he's an H. Harvey Weinstein right after G. It makes perfect sense.
Yes, in the game of life, Gaiman missed out on the poster, but gained notoriety as fans figured out, that he had a hand in it. Really, he did a great job. I mean, it's not a translation so much as an interpretation, which is something to keep in mind when you're comparing languages on this. But he did a great job. He did a great job on the script for this, and the voice casting handled by Disney was, fucking tastic. You got Goliath himself voicing the narration, as well as the boar god, Toro, whatever his name was, Okoto. And he narrates the intro. It's fucking killer. Anyway, the American voice cast did great on this. I watched it, of course, theatrically in English. That's just how they did it. For this viewing, I watched it dubbed again, as I assumed at least two of you would be doing this subbed. I'm assuming, right? So, yeah, and Andrea, you watched it dubbed this time.
Correct.
As well. Oh. Mixing it up.
For these recordings, I try to watch it in the version that I don't normally watch it in, just to have a different perspective. So
that's a great way to do it.
That's why.
And it opens.
Even though sub is the only right way to watch, but we'll forgive you this time.
It opens great,
Thank
man. The sub being what it is, having Keith David narrate your opening is a freaking brilliant idea.
So what you're saying is that we need a hybrid release.
That was some A+ decision making by Disney Miramax, because again, I can have Keith David read me the fucking phone book and I would be enthralled the entire time. So hearing Goliath narrate this was killer. This is one of those animated films that it was one of the first ones to start using computer technology. About 10% of the film had computer effects in it. Back then, when they thought they should use computers to augment instead of replace hand-drawn animation. So it was very clever use of it, because a lot of times I didn't know where it was being used.
I'm pretty sure some of these sequences, like when the pig god pretty much melted away, it was a cheesy morph.
Sure. But back then
it was a phenomenal morph.
Yeah, and the whole tentacle monster scene, right? So I mean, we all seen enough hentai to know where that was going. But when the boar god comes out and he's covered in tentacles, most of those are CGI'd for obvious reasons. Animating that would have been a nightmare for anybody.
And even that was really well done, especially for the time.
Hell yeah,
Terrifying.
There are some awesome details that they bring into here that was just phenomenal to look at. It just details, like he has dirt on his feet.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And another one is when they're ringing the alarm bell, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, the metal slab with the hammer marks in the middle.
Yeah, it was
a well used alarm.
Yeah, they've had a lot of alarm.
Yeah. There were over 144,000 drawings that made this movie, and Miyazaki oversaw each and every one of them. Personally retouched about half of them, if not almost over half of them. So this was supposed to be like his magnum opus. He was supposed to retire after this. This was his first retirement, was this movie.
Yep. And then 182 retirements later, he's still at it.
So he was fully prepared to go out on this one and have this be his magnum opus, and it would have been totally great. No notes. Yeah, then of course he came out of it for Spirited Away, and they came out of it for Ponyo, and they came out of it for Wind Rises, and he came out of it.
Yeah, every 20 minutes. He's like, oh, this is really good. I want in. I'm back.
I don't know how to quit.
This year's Ghibli Fest is all about retirement. So Rebecca, dude, please take the hint.
You're saying it's a goodbye tour?
That's right. It's his farewell tour.
18th farewell tour.
I love this whole concept of the Amishi people. That was really great. I loved the way Ashitaka tries to reason with the boar god demon as it's attacking, like, because he doesn't want to do what he knows he's going to do. Mm-hmm. Trying to reason with it, and it's just not having it. I love that Yakul got the Ghibli hair stand. The tentacle demons barreling out, and he's like, Yakul, run! And Yakul's just like, oh, fuck. Literally deer in the headlights. So he got his Ghibli hair stand. It was great. That whole sequence is so awesome and kinetic, and the tracking shots are great, and they use computers to sort of blend that in. Man, it's a great fucking way to open a movie. The music, artwork, the narration. It was a killer opening. Probably the strongest opening of any Ghibli movie, personally speaking.
Once again, are we saying that there's no critiques we have of this movie?
If you have a critique, it's wrong.
By all means, Brian.
You're not allowed but anything but unabashed joy about this movie.
I have thoughts, but they're not critiques so much as observations. What do you got? You got something?
Oh no! Please don't give it to me. I have one.
Go ahead.
I don't think the term prince or princess actually has any weight
at all.
In this story.
The name for this movie is some made up shit, man. I guess Miyazaki didn't even want it to be named that. And that then, like, at a press release, the director said the name, and Miyazaki was like, I guess that's the name.
Big oops.
See, he wanted the movie to be called The Legend of Ashitaka.
Which is a much better
Perfect name. Perfect name. And I guess the director...
Yeah, but something like Ashitaka Desetsu or Monogatari doesn't sound right.
The guy, I guess the director guy was like, I really want to call this Princess Mononoke. So when at a presser, he just blurted the name out, and everybody was like, "Oh, that's the name of the movie!" And they like wrote it down.
I do not want to be on the receiving end of that death stare.
I think we have a Mononoke counter. How many times they actually said Princess Mononoke?
I think
0.
Once.
They actually say Mononoke once?
Yeah, she says it.
Okay.
Lady
Eboshi?
Yeah,
Eboshi,
she says it. She said, and then Princess Mononoke will be human, I think is what she says.
Okay.
And then he's just like, Princess Mononoke, and then that's when
Okay, so they say it twice. All right.
Yeah, but then that's it. Never again, I don't think.
It's some horse shit.
Like, they don't princess right. They damn sure don't prince right. Like, it felt more, I don't know. I wish there not one kingdom was ever really described in any type of nothing.
I think the closest you can get is the Amishi people being a tribe. I mean, not unlike Native American tribes, Iroquois or whoever, Mohawk, and him being royalty within their tribe. But even that, even tribes like that don't necessarily have royalty. So he's just
hey, you're royalty. Just want to let you know,
you're dead to us.
Right?
You're out.
It's like, the whole arm thing, you're fired.
You were defending us, and your arm is going to probably eat you, but you're dead to us now. You have to go.
Okay, thanks, bye.
Okay, bye.
Oh shit! I did. As with all things Ghibli, I wish I could spend more time in certain things, and I wish I could have spent more time with the Amishi people. This sort of like idyllic clan of people living off the land and shit in harmony and all that. Again, Native American versus colonizer sort of motif that was sort of happening there at the beginning, and they sort of left.
I think that we get so surrounded by the whole colonization versus living off the land. This is not a unfamiliar plot.
Sure.
Gambit with wolves,
Yeah.
Avatar. Anything where we're talking about industry versus respecting of nature.
Right.
It's not unforeseen territory.
Absolutely.
Even using the deities and having that they actually have avatars in here. Not so much of a stretch here. They do a great job of, I guess, showing you how all those things work together.
I agree. I loved their representation of the kami in this as giant animal spirits, like these just giant creatures that could speak and reason. It was so cool. Sorry, Vic, I'm reading your note. Vic gave us a note on Mononoke, and now I'm going to make him read it.
No. I'm not reading it.
Share the knowledge. It's not nice
You have to
keep
share
knowledge.
it. Otherwise, Andreas include it in show notes. That's not fair.
That's
Andreas
extra
will read it
typing
then.
work. Don't make me do that. Oh no, what was me?
It's just a Wikipedia meaning of Mononoke, which is essentially vengeful spirits, dead spirits, live spirits, or spirits in Japanese classical literature and folk religion that were said to do things like possess individuals and make them suffer, cause disease, or even cause death.
That is, having that definition makes my idea for the theme of this film more relevant. Because most people talk about this movie and they talk about its industrialization versus nature. That's true of this movie, but I think there's more to it than just that balance. I don't think that's the story that this is trying to tell. I think it's the backdrop on which they're telling their story. I'll get to that later. I do want to talk about the film more before I get there. There's this great bit where the old biddy, the village elder, she's sitting there with Ashitaka, and she's basically telling him he's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna die of this. Sorry, you can't alter your fate. I'm just now having
Yeah, the
seen this
bone
like
said
800,
so.
800 times. I've seen this, and I'm like, sorry, you're wrong. Like, he totally legit changes his fate. Sorry. It's-
Did
And he can
Ulrich,
never go back because if he does, then she's a liar.
he definitely did Ulrich von Liechtenstein and changed his stars.
legit, yeah. Oh,
I mean, technically he died.
well, I don't know, man.
I mean, that's what Mononoke says, at least. That the horse spirit brought him back to life. So
I guess.
with that, at one point he technically did die. He just came back. I don't know. I'm just saying what I
Was
saw.
he dead then, or only kind of
When
dead?
that point happened,
See something, say something. I saw
You're
something, I said something.
defending the village elder, respecting your elders. I appreciate
Yes,
that.
respect the elders. It's very important.
Oh
I can
shit!
tell when he died, when the wolf bit his head after he fell.
That was
No
hilarious.
way.
Yo,
No
the
way.
that
Oh look, he fell over
Moment
dead.
bit his head like I was like, oh my god.
It was like a chihuahua with a squeaky toy. Just, God.
I'm like, he didn't go to the side or nothing. Those are straight incisors going straight into the bone. I mean,
I didn't know how he didn't have fang marks all over his face when they flipped him over. I was
Right?
like, dude, come on. That was a nom. That was a big nom.
Oh, it was fantastic. Yeah, I get scars on my hands when my cats nibble at me. Can you imagine that?
Can you imagine on your face? Come on.
Oh shit. So Ashitaka, he's cursed to die, doomed. He's never gonna survive this. It's his fate. So going in, you're like, okay, well he's gonna die, and then he doesn't, or he does and then doesn't. Whatever. So he leaves on his faithful Yakul to go investigate and see this world. Was it unclouded with eyes unclouded
Yeah,
by
with eyes
hate?
unclouded.
And I fucking love this next scene. And he rolls up on the samurai abusing the villagers.
Oh.
Fucking
That scene, that was like, this is Ghibli?
right. Yo, it was at that moment in time I was saying to myself, man, I completely underestimated Ghibli. I did.
That little sequence, that's like, oh, that's what happened when the artists watch Ninja Scroll.
dude. Everything about this scene is so good. The way he draws his bow and the arrow flies, and that whistle, and the way the camera shakes as the whistle is it's like arrows flying through the air. The whole scene down to the pieces just coming off of people, like so good. They tell so many things with it. Like, his arm, like the power in his arm is giving him the ability or whatnot. But you're like, how hard is that arrow flying? And they show you, because when he takes the arms off of that samurai, the arrow
It takes them a second to realize they're not there.
The arrow goes into the tree all the way to the fletching of the arrow. Like, it's completely embedded in the tree. There's like nothing left. So it cleans the guy's arms and buries itself completely into the tree. The whole scene's fucking amazing. My animation nerd moment, I gotta have at least one of them for all these Ghibli movies. It's this, and it's Ashitaka's watching the samurai attack the villagers, and shot is him on Yakul's back, and Yakul's ear turns. Ashitaka looks down and sees his ear turn, and then turns to see what he's listening to, and then he sees more samurai coming, and those samurai attack him. It's such a fast little moment, but it's so great because it shows how much he is in tune with his animal, in tune with his friend, that he saw his ears move and took that as an alert, and it saved his fucking life because he's rained on arrows right after that.
Come out. Pause. Flag on the play. Did anybody else catch that?
I told you it was gonna be my one animation nerd moment. Let me have it.
Did anybody else?
The ear turn? No, I missed it.
I'm gonna have to rewatch
This-
it because I didn't see it.
Look. I feel like this is a forlorn moment, but This is the part where you say that I want to apologize for having awesome eyesight or getting LASIK.
Look, I am not criticizing the way anybody watches animation. Everybody watches it their own way and they enjoy it for their own reasons.
How are you watching?
This is the way I watch it. I watch it. I watch it I watch it to be entertained, but I also watch it from a work standpoint. Like I watch it from, if I was doing this, would I have thought to do this? And so when I watch
it at 3 frames a second, that way he can take in every single individual frame.
It's fucking cool, man. I don't know what to tell you. It's so cool that they thought that he should react that way, that literally his elk saves his life. Like the ear turn tells him trouble's that way. If you've ever watched your own, like your pet, your cat or your dog, the ears are the first thing to turn. Before anything else, that's what turns first. So it's just, to me, it was just a really cool thing that I saw. That's it. No judgment. This is how I watch anime.
I was like, funny enough, because of him, I don't know if it's from listening to the podcast or if it's from, growing up with him. Because of him, I'll notice random stuff, like in the movie when I was watching it. Something that I noticed that I was like, oh, that's funny that they actually animated that, was when he's getting a tour of the Iron Castle. There in the background, you see these 3 people, and one person's holding like the nail in the middle, and they're doing the thing where one slams a hammer and then the other one slams it right behind them. And each time they do it, the person holding the nail is flinching. Like every single time they slam it, he flinches. And it made me laugh because I was like, I normally wouldn't notice that. But because of Rick, I sit there and I'm just like, oh, that's funny. They actually animated the flinching, because I know I would be flinching every 2 seconds.
Oh, you know that poor guy was there terrified of his hand.
Terrified that he was going to lose a finger. But it's animated.
I guess is that we had just talked about the awesome scene of the arrow taking off the guy's arm.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, you even notice that the arrow goes all the way into the wood, based up to the fletchet.
Yeah.
And then immediately after that, you also notice the ears of the Yakult. I'm saying that there is a point in time where something cool happens, and there needs to be a moment where let's call it an orgasm, if you will, right? where you actually have to take time to pause and then, regather your strength. But these guys are basically coming on our face multiple times throughout the show, and you're taking all of it like the bukkake wizard you are.
Yeah,
Brian, I think you're confusing an eyegasm with porn.
This is anime bukkake, and I lap it up. Yes, it's amazing.
Oh my God.
Leave
it to Brian to turn a Ghibli conversation into, something that belongs to the hentai episode.
Oh hell no!
I don't.
They did this when they started blowing arms off. They said, if you want to start talking about dicks and shit, we're cool with it. In this episode, they let us know.
But when the head popped off, that was the best. And the guy is still riding his horse. Yeah.
And I love
and there were
that they
2 head pops. One later on too.
I love that they used it again. They're like, he's gonna do this same trick. He's gonna catch the arrow, flip around, kill a motherfucker, pull another arrow, and pop another head off. And he does that, and the other samurai's like, nope. Turns around. Nope.
They're like, peace, we out.
I understood the assignment. Goodbye.
Yes. That was the best. Like the guy was like, okay, I'll see you later.
You hear something? I gotta go.
Like, did you see how good that guy aims? We out.
It was so cool. It's so great, and it sucks that it's so cool because it's antithetical to the character. Like that's not what he's all about.
Right.
And it's showing how much power hate has. Because that's what his infection is. It's hatred. It's showing how much power hatred has over somebody like him. It's awesome. It's terrifying and it's awesome all at the same time.
We need it. I think it's time. It's time for the professor, the Ghibli professor.
Are you
calling me?
He's.
We are summoning her from the depths like a kraken. Ladies and present to you the Ghibli professor, who's going to give you all the information you need to know about Ghibli right now.
Boy, I hope you brought receipts, guys.
Oh god. Oh dear.
Like summon Andrea.
Well, for mindless musings for this film, I, funny enough, don't actually have a lot. I love this film. It's my favorite out of all of them, even though I dearly, dearly love Kiki.
I was gonna say.
I know. I think I love Kiki, but this every time I think of Ghibli, I think of this film. It could be because it's probably one of the first ones I ever watched growing up, to the point that I had a very bad, legitimate fear of worms. And also thought that arrows were a lot more powerful than they actually were. So when I was older and was like interested in archery, learned that was way harder than I thought it was, because he made it look so easy with his superpowered arm.
Andrea over here thinking she's gonna go pop a few heads off and realize it's not that easy.
Hits the tree and bounces off.
No. More like let's go and hits the floor. Like I have no power at all. I couldn't do anything. It was so hard to pull the bow back. Anyway, poor thing. Sadly, I love this film so much, but I don't have a lot of mindless musings. The only thing I can really say about this film.
I'm sorry, you're not getting the assignment. We are part of the mindless musings. We're actually looking for the mindful.
The mindful, the depth. Like, what's the deeper level of this film? Like, what's the lesson?
I have one.
You have one?
I have one.
Okay, I have one too. So
go ahead. You go first.
No, are you sure?
100%.
All right, as I'm like, you can
Are
go.
you sure? Hold on. Are you?
I'm absolutely sure. Go ahead.
You're absolutely sure you want me to?
I'm positive I'm going to follow this act.
Okay. Well, what I think, because again, this is all in my perspective and how I interpreted the film. But this one is a complicated explanation because the answer is complicated. For me, the way that this film breaks down is it's much like Rick says. It's about anger. It's about hatred, specifically. It's about the power of hatred and how it can drive you and blind you and cloud your eyes. Literally.
I shouldn't have followed this.
Sorry.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Go.
I like how she says clouded your eyes, and I'm just thinking of the old pig guy who couldn't see because his eyes were all cloudy.
100%.
His eyes were all cloudy, and he was driven by hatred. They had conversations with him. He even had a conversation with Anne and everyone and talked about it, and still decided to attack, even though when they begged him not to, because he could be turned into a demon. All he saw was hatred, therefore he turned into a demon. So for me, it's like, yes, it is about hatred and the power of hatred. That is a huge portion of this film, and like it's a huge driving factor. And just also it's about forest conservation and living in peace with, the earth and with progress, by building iron and stuff like that. As weird as it says, I think that the deeper meaning of this is literally listening to everyone's side of the story.
Dude, that's
because that's what this is like. Yep. He was driven by the power of hatred in his arm because he was infected by it, but he himself didn't. He hated the arguments that they were having over things that they were focusing on the small things and not focusing on the big things that could bring them together. It was very much well, you did this, well, you did that, well, you did this first, well, you did that first, and all this stuff, when in the end, all they had to do was really just listen to both sides of the story with unclouded eyes.
All they had to do was just shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen to each other and come to a mutual understanding with like, okay, you can have this land, and talk to the kami gods to like agree with them as well, not just overtake like they did with the apes. And actually come to a harmonious, agreement. That's what the forest god wanted. That's why he saved him. And he didn't take away the scarring on his arm or anything, because it was his way of saying like, your job's not done. You need to get these people to be amicable, to be happy with each other, to live in harmony, and to see each other's sides. And that's what he did.
That's fucking legit. Mine too. Look, right here. It says right here. It's nature versus industrialism is the theme on the surface, but to me, the real theme of this movie is empathy versus apathy, and how that duality exists in all things. That's Ashitaka's true power. It's not the hate that's inside of him. It's that he empathizes with the people in the conflict. He empathizes with Lady Eboshi, with San, with the deer kami, Moro. He understands what all of them are trying to do. Eboshi has empathy for the lepers and the sex workers. She adopts them all. She tries to care for them. Her whole purpose in making Irontown succeed is so that she can take care of all these people, the downtrodden. And Moro, to me, Moro, the wolf kami, she is the antithesis to Lady Eboshi. She has empathy for her child San and for the forest, and she adopts San because she has empathy for her. And she empathizes with all the creatures in the forest and vows to protect the forest. And everybody likes to say this movie's about Eboshi and San, but I think it's more about Eboshi and Moro. And I think San is a byproduct of Moro's hatred or apathy towards Eboshi and the industrial expansion that's happening there. And Ashitaka's whole thing is being able to empathize with everyone in this. Nobody in this is evil. Everybody in this is trying to protect someone.
All different shades of gray.
If anybody's evil in this, it's that fucking monk guy. What the fuck's his name? Jiko. Jiko's the only motherfucker in this. If I gotta give a movie a villain, it's him.
Yeah. With the crazy data.
Everybody in this has something worth living for. And everybody in this is somebody that I could have been friends with to a degree. They all care. That, to me, is the biggest thing about this movie, is that it's everybody's has empathy, sure, but they also have apathy. They're incapable of understanding the other side of the argument. They're incapable of empathizing with the people that are who they see as attacking them. Boy, if that isn't the fucking real world right now, I don't know what is.
I was about to say, yeah.
After watching this movie and growing up with it, it's every time I have an argument with someone or I'm having a disagreement and stuff, I always sit there and kind of do the Reddit, like, am I the asshole kind of thing? And I always think of this film when I'm doing that, because this is essentially what they should have done. Is they all should have just sat down and been like, am I the asshole here? And they would have probably come to a peaceful conclusion and would have not need any of these.
The answer is yes. Yes, you are.
You are kind of the asshole.
That kind of gets reinforced with when they save the wolf from under the boar's bodies. You know, after the battle, it's no longer us and them. They're realizing that Ashitaka may have something to say about it. You know, because they were celebrating the death of a boar god. He had the repercussions of their celebration, and when you saw that, they were like, "Well, what's the matter? Why are you so upset?" And he shows, you know, that he's cursed. This is what's happened, and then in the end, the very things that they were battling against as their enemies, they saved one. So
a
little bit of progress.
I did write a note, is that the deer kami's parting gift as he's dying was empathy. He healed the land. He healed the fucking lepers. He cured them of leprosy. He did all of this despite the fact that everyone was like, fuck him, right? And the kami god still said, I'm gonna heal everything, and you guys start over and fix this. Do it right. That's represented by the fact that there's the one Kodama at the very end rattling his head, is like, hey, we're not done. This forest is still alive. We're still here. Like, it's, to me, that's the lesson to take away from this. Is it beautiful? Hell yeah. Is there beautiful destruction? Fuck yeah, there's a ton of beautiful destruction in this movie. That's, if it's a lesson in learning to listen, if anything.
Yeah.
One of the things that stood out to me was, all right, say you have the conflict, right? On either side of the conflict, there was another party that was either added even more instigation to it, or just talking for Lady Eboshi.
Eboshi, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She has the monk in her ear, and then she also has the feudal lord coming to take her stuff, even while she's dealing with Princess. I mean, San, and there were so many attacks happening to somebody who was really trying to do the right thing for her people. But there was, it was just constant, and it really felt surreal when you look at that you're thinking about, you're trying to work for peace.
Yeah.
There are
Trying to do
so
right.
many things that are attacking this for their own goals and for their own gains. It's hard to even say if we're going to go and sit down at a table to talk about we need to work this out. Then the table also has an attack coming towards it. It's really sobering. If anything, it's depressing. See.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. It is. There's a lot of that, but I think that's why it's so frustrating, right? Like growing up the way we did with anime and all of this, to know that these kinds of themes existed for us. Be it stuff we learned from Super Dimension Fortress Macross, or the stuff we learned from Ghibli movies, or the stuff we learned from schlock like Ninja Scroll. Right? We pick up a lot of these deeper themes, and back in those days we were reduced to cartoon nerds. You're just like, you don't understand the depths of storytelling that we are dealing with here. The layers of complexity rival some of the greatest writings you've ever turned a page to. And we're the nerds? Fuck you. This shit is Shakespeare. It's
back then it was like, oh, if it's animated, obviously it's for kids.
right.
It's cartoons. Yeah. Why are you watching cartoons? That
this
used to
movie
make
kind
me
of broke
mad.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
This movie broke that mold for people. And like your reaction, Brian, when Ashitaka starts taking limbs, you're like, oh fuck, we are not watching. This is not a Disney movie.
This is not My Neighbor Totoro.
This is something else entirely. This was the eye opener for a lot of people. They were like, oh fuck, we're dealing with something else. A lot of people.
He's supposed to be done. And you're retiring after this? How dare you?
Right?
And that was so it had a lot of power behind it, this movie. Just why it means so much to anime nerds, because of what it represented in the market, in the time. It's like, okay, we're 15, 20 years deep into this anime stuff, and just now we're starting to get some credit because of this movie. And you're like, this movie's amazing. It ain't the only game in town, yo. We've been watching shit this deep for years.
Mm-hmm.
So, it succeeds on these concepts. It succeeds at showing human complexity better than most movies show human complexity.
All right, so let's look at this as, for instance, let's try to apply this whole movie to a current event, right? And you can see that there's actually something that we're dealing with right now, and it's Russia and Ukraine. They're trying to protect their people, but there's a outside force that's instigating it. But they truly don't want some bigger. It's never what the battle. I like how it's never what the battle is portrayed to be about. It's always something else, a higher level above that. Capitalism versus feudalism in this movie. Right. But you could really take that same mindset of what we're trying to deal with here, and how do you get peace out here?
Well, the answer in this movie was pretty easy.
Burn it down?
Burn it all down.
I was going to say, blow it up, start over.
Yeah, they blew it up and started over. The dear Kami was like, I'm leveling the playing field. Everything dies. And then we'll start over.
Killed a god.
Yeah.
That's how they solved it. They killed a god.
Yeah, they killed God, and they leveled the playing field. Like everything was wiped, right? The power of the forest was diminished. Irontown was burned to the ground. They had to start fresh. That's a terrible plan, because a lot of human lives are at stake in the really real world. Mm-hmm. In this story, that's the only way they were able to accomplish it. Because how do you get? Let's take it back to the really real world. How do you get people without empathy understand someone else? You don't, and that's our biggest problem as a culture, as a society, as a race, is our lack of empathy. Our empathy is being drowned. It's being sucked away from us. We are training the next generations not have it. It's look at the internet.
Ugh.
Spend 5 minutes on it and read one comment section of any random story anywhere on the internet, and tell me I'm wrong that we're not teaching empathy.
We're also blinded by our hatred,
Right?
and we're pushing it on others. It's not that we're not able to empathize; it's just we're blinded by our hatred.
Right.
And it's just like Brian said, it's not a surface level. You don't hate the person that you're yelling at online. There's a deeper level. There's a reason why you're hating, and you're just hating.
It's because most of the time it's because they're ignorant and they just don't like the other person's opinion.
They don't want to listen,
and they don't listen. That's another thing with this piece is like when you look at Lady Eboshi, before she killed the god, they were like, "Don't do it, stop. You're being played. You're being played. And she refused to listen because she believed her knowledge was the knowledge, and this was how she would do it. And she refused to acknowledge anyone else's opinions. And I think that's the problem that comes in is we take our limited experiences, our limited knowledge, and we apply that to the world and expect them to understand that that is how they should be, and we get mad because they don't fit that mold. You don't fit my little town mold that I lived in for my whole life, so you are the enemy, and whatever you do is against me, and that's why it's there.
I think even better, even so, value, just the term value and scope, right? We have the value of the iron versus the value of the spirits, right? So one person says, I don't see no value in the spirit. So clearly the iron is the thing that's supposed to be superior.
Right. I can't fix shit with spirits, but with this iron, I can pay to help these lepers. I can take care of these women. I can build up this town and protect us from the shogun. Like the iron gives me real value. The trees, fuck the trees.
The trees are in the way of the iron.
Kind of like a foreshadowing, if you think about it. It's, how I saw it is Princess Mononoke is a summary of what is going to happen if we continue with what we're doing. And you can see it as like nature dying, everything. And eventually, the only way that you're going to fix it is with a reboot. When your computer works out, you get that blue screen of death. What happens? You reboot it. You got to start it over. So from what I saw with this, what I took away from it was with all of us being so me type thing, the end result is really just going to be everything's going to go boom. And the people remaining are going to be like that one husband who said, "Oh, I didn't know the dear God made flowers bloom." Like that's the only way they knew that had happened was when he died. Yeah. And so I think it's kind of depressing. That's how I took it. I was like, "Oh yeah, this is what's going to happen. The world's going to."
But that's the importance of it. That's the importance of the story being told. And it's not the first time Miyazaki has dealt with themes of nature versus industry and expansion. Nausicaa was another clear example of that. It was the precursor to this. It was Nausicaa and the toxic jungles fighting back against the expansion of the human race, and that's finding that balance. That was Princess Nausicaa's a princess who, by the way, princess was being used correctly then. Yes. She was. That was what she was fighting. And again, another character that was expressing empathy for the creatures of the forest. Why do we have to kill the bugs? Why can't we figure out what's bothering the bugs and solve that problem? And that's Ashitaka's role in this film. Why do we have to burn down the forest for the iron? Is there like maybe another way to do that? And the wolves are like, kill them all. They're like, okay, like maybe we don't have to kill them all. Like maybe there's another way we can handle that.
Do we have dinner and talk it out?
Right. Let's split a bottle of sake, figure this out. To me, that's the ultimate lesson in this. And a lot of people see this movie and they see nature versus industry. And I see it. It's right there. It's on the face of this movie. I feel like it's an unfortunate thing if that's the only message you take away from it. When literally it's in the line. see the world with eyes unclouded by hate. That's the real message of the movie. They say it like 5 times in this movie, and still people come away with, this is about finding balance with Earth. I'm like, yeah, sure, but
conceal, not feel.
Beautiful destruction. Sans infiltration of Irontown was fucking baller. I loved when she invaded Irontown. The way that they blew up the tiles of the roof. The way that
God, the way she was just how smoothly her running across the roofs were.
Yeah, just like physical embodiment of rage at that point. It was so great, and the way that
vengeful spirit.
Yeah, just exactly. Yeah, she was living up to her namesake. It was freaking awesome. I did have a question, and I don't know if anybody knows. What are all the bones in the water surrounding the Deer Kami's island? And every time they're in the water around the Deer Kami's little island, there's bones fucking everywhere. What are they?
Well, didn't Yakul not go on the island and Mononoke go, "You're smart, you know you're not supposed to go on this island."
Right.
So I think what
Yeah, it's like if you're not of the forest, you shouldn't be there.
Yeah. So like if you're not asking, if if there's no reason for you to be there, basically you're gonna die. That's how I took it. Is like,
it's like, all right,
that's the boneyard of the dum-dums.
The kami of this forest is a deer, right?
That is a creepy deer.
In all things nature, a deer is prey. So what?
Yeah, but no one really wanted to screw with that deer.
Because there's a lot of dead shit in the water around this island. I noticed it when they're like trudging through the water, and like, God damn, there's a lot of bones down here.
It's a deer with a face. It's a deer with a face.
Could it also have been like the ones that he passes judgment, right? He chooses whether you live or die if you approach him.
Yeah, I think
it could be the one.
I think he's a life cycle. I think that's kind of what he is, right? Because every time he steps, which by the way, more fucking anime bukkake for you, Brian. When that deer foot hits the ground and all the leaves sprout up and die as his foot lifts up, I'm like, God damn it, that is fucking amazing.
That little tree, when he breathes on it, it just dies.
Yeah, just all of that. And I loved his mercy killing of Akoto. That's what I saw it as, was a mercy killing. Like he saw Akoto was lost. He was completely lost to that rage. Even though he just got shot in the fucking head, he still walks up to Akoto and gives him a merciful death. Almost just out of respect. I don't know. I loved it. I thought that was so cool for such a horrible thing that was happening to that character, to get that moment of mercy. It's like, you know what? I release you. You don't need this.
Had empathy.
He had empathy. Fucking had empathy, man. And that's apes. The apes were fucking terrifying.
Oh yes.
Apes were awesomely terrifying. The whole scene with the red eyes, and they were going to eat the human. I'm like, oh, god damn.
Yeah, that scene, they were really creepy, but then when they showed them later on in the movie, they looked like apes.
Yep. The shit was great. I loved it.
I want to know who suggested eating the human, because I need to talk to them and find out what's going on. Who heard
right? Who suggested, eating something like that? It's like, was it Phil in the back? I bet it was Phil.
It was Phil.
Fucking Phil. So it's one of those things that I spent a little time thinking about that, because I did think it's interesting that it's the apes that want to eat the human to gain power, because it's always, it's sort of that King Louis, Jungle Book sort of vibe, like desire to make that next step to be as powerful as a human. And then for them, like, we're gonna eat the human. We're gonna get power.
After our conversation just now, I was actually thinking about what power were they trying to take from Ashitaka.
Yeah.
The ability to shoot arrows like a boss.
So that's the thing. The thing about it is if they were looking for that one, they would have been basically eating his corruption.
Right.
Right.
Which I'm perfectly fine with.
And you remember my statement about there's always something bigger? I was trying to figure out what was it on the other side. On Lady Eboshi's side, we had the feudal lord that was trying to come take her stuff, right?
Right, yeah.
The other side, we actually had the curse. Curse was a thing that was of hatred.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's on the other side of why can't we sit down with them? Oh, we hate them too much. Oh, you got a curse too. Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Yeah.
Because even if, let's say they had sat down and Iboshi and Moro, they all sat down and came together, the pig guy was still going to come over there like, no, this is wrong. We need to be killing them. And then the feudal lord still would have been like, no, you guys are wrong. We need to be, not only do we need to be killing them, because that's where the monk came from, was from the feudal lord, right?
Yeah, yeah. He worked
The
for him.
emperor.
From the
Came
emperor.
from the emperor. Mhm.
Yeah, was it Lord Asano?
Asano, right.
So we're talking about the table and who needs to be at the table and who is determining what the value is.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't even get those two people there because there's something always in the background trying to take even more from that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of voices to be had, and who's in charge, right? Who's in charge? Everybody's got an agenda. Even Okoto's agenda was he was a fervent protector of his people in the forest. He already lost one of his own to this, so there was no bringing him back from this, and that's why when he gets corrupted by the curse, it makes perfect sense. Like he was way too far gone in this. He had already gotten his boys war painted up, which was fucking cool.
That was so cool.
That was pretty neat.
That was awesome.
And
It's like
riding
war
into
pigs.
battle. Yeah, and so he was too far gone, right? He like you guys said earlier, his eyes were literally clouded by hate. And there was no coming back for him. You couldn't sit him at that table. There was too much rage. He'd lost too much already from everybody else's lack of empathy that he had nothing left but apathy. There was nothing left for him.
Yeah. Even after seeing what happened to the other boar god, he was like, I'm just gonna continue doing it. It's fine.
It was
There's also like at least for me, there's like another level there that I see, and that's when Mononoke is trying to help him like get to the forest god, and she's like, you got to keep going, you got to keep going, and they're trying, and she's doing her best. She's trying to have empathy for him because she understands.
Puking up barrels of blood.
He's puking up and all this stuff, but it's when he gets infected that he starts growing the worms, and she's trying to get them off of him. Like, no, you got to fight it, you got to be good, all this stuff, and she ends up getting wrapped up into it. And she gets wrapped up into it. Something that she yells is like, I'm on fire, it's burning, please, I don't want to become hate.
Yeah.
For me, that's like another lesson as well, is like, is if you surround yourself with those people that are always hating and always angry and all that stuff, you can end up getting corrupted by it as well, even if you don't want to.
The hate spreads easy.
Hate spreads really easily. It's a very easy infection to get. And she needed someone to get her out because she was getting swallowed up.
That's the scale that we're looking for between empathy and apathy. Yeah. Those are the opposites, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're basically talking about the difference between seeing other people or other views versus selfishness in that. Man, this is a deep one.
And it's such a testament to storytellers. I am not a storyteller especially if this is the metric by which I measured. That they have the thought to break it down like this. You just think about making a movie. Think about making like something most people are going to come up with, and this is not a slight against the series, it's very entertaining, but most people are going to come up with some John Wick bullshit. And you get people like Miyazaki who sit down and like, no, we're going to do this because this means this, and this represents this, and this is another way that this can happen. The way that hate infects in this movie, both literally like a virus and just through evolution of circumstance, it's a level that is so much deeper than a lot of storytellers can ever hit. And that's, again, reduced by people because it's a fucking cartoon. And I'm like, just give it a fucking chance and you'll see.
And it's not shoved in your face. That's the part that I love about this. It's all very subtle. It's one of those because no one will pay attention if it's shoved in your face, right? You're just like,
Nobody likes to be
I don't.
preached to.
Yeah,
Mhm.
this is all. It was all very. And then when you finally realize it, no,
You
go
guys
ahead.
ever watch something like this and think, this sucks because the message isn't going to get to the people that probably need it the most?
Oh God, yeah. There's so
Mhm.
many things I watch like that. Like I will literally watch it with someone and I'll be like, dang, it's crazy how they talked about like this and this and that. And they're like, what? I thought it was just a story about a butterfly. How'd you get all that? And I'm like, dude, did you not? And I have to like break it down. It makes
Did
me
we
sad
not watch
because
the
I
same
know,
movie?
yeah, like, do we not watch the same? But that's a majority.
Yeah.
Is a majority of people will just see the pretty story about this is, obviously about civilization versus nature. And it's a lot deeper than that. So deep that it's difficult to explain sometimes because there's too many levels.
And it does frustrate me because I would love to show this movie to a million people and hope that they got even half of what we've talked about in this from it. The reality is I don't think they will. And it's a shame because it's a powerful lesson to have. So I think this is a probably a good time for us to wrap it up before we foolishly drag ourselves out to a 3-hour podcast on this.
Which we probably easily could do.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 100.
Yeah, I feel like thematically, I mean, we barely did our usual MO on this because we dug into how deep it was right away.
Talked about the deeper meaning of the movie. We never actually talked about the whole movie in general.
This is
There's
great.
too many
This is what
levels.
final thoughts are for. So we'll go ahead and do that. Let's start with our final thoughts on this. Brian, let's hear it, man. What are your thoughts on Mononoke? Had you never experienced this before this viewing, did you?
No.
Andrea is disappointed in you.
She's thrilled for
I'm
him.
thrilled that you finally got to watch this one because I love this film so much.
Since our conversation, I've been having some thoughts about like movies like Avatar, and Avatar or Dances with Wolves, where you have one person who is from industry who is sent to talk to the nature and try to let them know, hey, listen, we're coming, but it always gets lost that that person eventually loses their desire to be a part of the industry, and they want to reconnect with the nature because they see the value of the people there. And I've been trying to think about another medium that has done it the way this has done it, where they've done the reset for everybody. And after the reset, it's more about well, how are you guys going to work together now? Because it's still it's still going to be the emperor is still going to be trying to get the iron, and hate is still going to be on the other side of that. And it felt like the emotion it's like emotion versus, man, there's so many. I don't have a final thought on this because I feel like there is so much left unfinished.
Sure.
And I could spend the rest of my life on this earth trying to be a bridge like Ashitaka. Does he, man, I would love to see how he feels about it 20 years down the road. Does he feel like his sacrifices were worth it? I've never really asked for a sequel from Ghibli. I think that this is one that actually deserves a sequel or some type of continuance of the story.
I think I agree. I would love a sequel, but I think that is, I don't want to speak for the master himself, but I think Miyazaki-san's whole idea is that I've given you the reset. How do you move forward? How do you move forward? You move forward with empathy because that's what he was trying to teach us to do. I don't know. I agree with you though. I would love to get more. Fuck yeah, give me more of this. Give me a manga series. Give me the 5 movies.
Well, we the problem is that there are so many things that they talk about that lead you to the cliffhanger of what's supposed to happen now. A really great movie that we don't talk about is the movie Contact, right? they spend so much time trying to get to decipher this message, and the message says, "Hey, there's something amongst the stars. You could come find us." And you really don't deal with what that message is. It was really just, okay, we have found you. Now what? And we are left to explore that on our own. I would love for somebody to start the conversation, and if you can use it during media, of saying this big thing has happened. This is how we have progressed since then. You can start to give us a little bit more hope, because as it stands right now, the only thing we know is that a reset is coming. And do we even have hope after the reset? Or are we just going to be doomed? Man.
All right. And on that note, we'll switch over. Okay.
This are final thoughts, not deep thoughts.
I'm gonna switch over to I'll switch over to Andrea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why me?
You got this.
Okay.
So Andrea, you grew up with this movie.
Literally.
And here we are.
Don't disclose that.
Just a handful of years later.
Just a handful.
What are your thoughts on it now, after your millionth viewing?
Yes, after my millionth and one viewing today, it's watching it now and trying to figure out what the deeper meaning was and all that fun stuff. Being older and rewatching it, it was a lot easier for me to understand. As growing up with it, I got the premise of it. At first, of course, I always saw the surface level, respect nature, and worms are scary. But but it wasn't until as I got older and slowly watching it that I realized the deeper meaning of it. And it's have empathy, just try and see things from other people's perspectives, because if everyone did that in this film, all the different levels of everything that happened could have gotten solved one at a time. It's the apes could have been helped if they would have spoke instead of throwing rocks. Everyone could have helped if they wouldn't have shot instead of, if they would have talked instead of shot. There's a lot of things that could have been done differently that weren't. And if everyone would have just taken a second, taken a deep breath, and tried to just put their stuff on pause, you could see how you could easily fix the problem you were so frustrated by. And that's kind of what I took from this film, is just pay attention to everyone, kind of have empathy, see where the other person's coming from, even if it's really difficult and sometimes you have to ask. It's better to ask than to just wait forever and not try to see their side. And also know when you need to take a step back, when it's too far. And you just have to realize there's no getting through to this person. Maybe I should just try and find a different solution.
Mercy kill him.
Or as the god.
Shout out to Okoto. Sorry, bro.
That's it.
Yeah. No, it's all right. Now you're up, Vic.
Okay, well, again, definitely one of my favorite Ghibli movies. I first bought this just randomly walking into a Best Buy when it first came out. I've been in love with this movie ever since. First Ghibli movie I bought with my own money. And I've bought almost every version that's come out since. I own it 4 times over, as well as most of the time when Ghibli Fest comes up, I'll go watch it. I just absolutely freaking love this movie. Again, everyone seems to be on the same page. It just shows that humanity basically sucks because we refuse to listen to each other. I don't want to sound like a broken record, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to say you should watch this movie. It is freaking phenomenal.
Awesome. Awesome. Lynette, if it's all right with you, I'm going to go. Cool. Fantastic. When I watched this movie in theaters, so handful of years ago.
Fair enough.
I was in my 20s. Younger mind, younger experiences. So I too, upon the first go around, I took away from it nature versus industry. Even then, and even that was powerful enough for me. I grew up respecting nature. When you grow up in Florida, you have to respect nature. It's sort of do or die. You just
especially when nature can eat you.
right, and everything can kill you here. So when you grow up here, you're taught to respect nature, or it will kill you. And so I've always had a deeper respect for it, but this film reminded me of the damage we can do to it with greed. That was initially what I got from this movie, and that was all I needed to get from this movie because that's a powerful enough message in and of itself. But through the years, watching it over and over again, picking up on the deeper meanings, coming to the realization that what the world needs now is love, sweet love. There was not a lot of empathy to be had, and as we grow older and as the world spins on, it's the one thing that we seem to be running out of. This film evolved for me. I think it evolved for probably all of us, not to speak out of turn. It evolved from the surface level story to the life lesson that we want to teach the world. And I think that message should be shared as often as possible. I think that everybody should experience this movie, even if you have a friend who's never seen an anime ever. This is a great one to fucking start them on. It's a great one. Because at the very least, they'll get out of it, respect nature. It's a great lesson. But I think the older they are, I think the more they'll see the real message in it. So it's beautiful. It's arguably a perfect film. Damn near. I think that you do yourself a disservice to not share it with the world. Lynette, we're going to wrap it up with you. I know, Mononoke. This isn't your first time with Mononoke. That was Brian's cherry we popped this time.
Wow.
So
Cock it all over my face.
take us out with your final thoughts on Mononoke.
Yeah, like everyone else, when I first watched it, I saw the end result was this is what happens with human greed and selfishness. Basically, is how I saw that going. And to me, I feel like you watch it once, come back after your experience and knowledge has expanded, and you'll see more. Kind of like every time you look at something, you see more and more and more of it. And I think to me that's the underlying story, because Ashitake had to go and see the inner workings of Iron City. He had to go and see the inner workings of the forest in order to get more information. And to me, I feel like the movie is really, this is what happens when you don't try to learn from everything and everyone. And when you let your own selfishness or hubris say that you know everything. This is what happens. Is everything is separated, no one cares about anybody because they all believe that they are the right. But there's always
In fact,
hope.
no one knows anything.
Exactly.
Sorry.
There's always hope. You always have that one person, like the husband, who finally learned something. And to me, that's how the movie ended with me. It's like, oh, the world went boom. The deer god died, but everything rebloomed. And then that one guy who was accused of being the idiot husband goes, oh, I didn't know that. So that to me kind of gave me that little bit of hope that we can learn something and it might be better next time.
Fingers crossed for a better future. Well, folks, if we don't have anything else to add to it, I'm going to go ahead and take us out. That's going to do it for our show today. So until next time, keep calm. And remember, in this information age of outrage that we live in, glued to our screens and suffering through every social media shitstorm, this lesson is probably the most important. See the world with eyes unclouded by hate.
You've just been privy to the mindless midlife musings of the anime nerd, presented by Geek Grotto. Follow the podcast on Twitter @Geek Grotto. For show notes and corrections or for general geeky fun, you can visit our website at geek-grotto.com. If you would like to sponsor the show, you can do so on the podcast's Red Circle host site, redcircle.com/shows/MMMAN. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast app, please like, follow, and subscribe.